Jupiter in Gemini is a very spontaneous placement. It's very, very much about going in one direction, going in another direction, and having a lot of ideas and not knowing where to turn those ideas into actual action. It grows through truly connecting, bridging ideas, speaking, communicating, and it will not do what you think that it will do because it will have its own ideas and it will dig down deep until it finds the truth. And so it is willing to do that work to find what is actually going on below the surface. But, you may think, what in the heck are you talking about? It's Gemini energy. It's meant to be very, very superficial. Well, what I mean by this is looking into something with curiosity, wanting to learn about it. That's all that I mean by this. So, Gemini and Scorpio are two very, very different energies, and they're both about two very different things. So, in this episode of the Cosmic Sky podcast, I am taking all of the recent videos on my channel and turning them into podcast episodes because that's how I do my videos now. And that's how I'll do it for, a long time, is I'm doing Jupiter in Gemini in the natal birth chart. And I have a video on my YouTube channel, which is, I'd say, a very, very good video if you want to go check that out. A lot of good information in that video. I filmed that, before mid-February when I started this podcast. And I actually started this podcast with another name and around the time of the solar eclipse. So solar eclipses are like brand new beginnings that make a major put step in your life, like a put step. And, starting something major that you're, initiating that could be, for years and years at a time. So, this podcast will be, here for a while, and hopefully, I'll be doing it for a while, and hopefully when I get to age 40 or something like that, then my Uranus opposition will not cause me to want to totally change the game of what I'm doing, because, I'll still do what I do creatively, and eventually I will monetize it and do all that, but I, cannot do that right now, but I will. When the time comes, that's what I plan on doing it. But so I'm going to talk about this placement. I have a family member who's very, very close to me that has this placement. And I'm going to get into, some dynamics. And I will say before I even proceed into this, is that he, necessarily has a very way with words being able to communicate very, very well, very, very effectively, very, very efficiently, very, intelligently, but having opinions when it comes to especially political things, and tells a lot of jokes, really, really likes to communicate when he is in the right settings with the right people. He really, really opens up his communicative self, but, also kind of shy. And I am observing him and like, I want to be less shy. I want to put myself out there a little bit more. If I am shy, I just want to be calm and grounded and open and not totally, reserved and have a wall built up between me and another where I try to connect and it's like, you're trying, but it's just not enough. It's just, it's like, and I also described this in my Gemini North Node video because this person also has the Gemini North Node as well as Jupiter in Gemini. So, if I were to have children, or if I were to have get married, I would be, I wouldn't be, all, a party animal and, so, the most extroverted person, but hopefully I would be more, hopefully I would want to be more, open, and less to myself, less shy. So, and that is a quality with being a Leo that is, I didn't care for that about Leos, the shyness, the self-consciousness, just, the whole ego thing with Leo, I just, No. I don't like it. So delving into this placement, enough of that, sort of rant about that. So Jupiter in Gemini, what does this mean? And I mean, whatever the quality of this video turns out to be, it'll probably be clear so that you can understand it. But I know that the past two videos where I was at a different place had the sound to my perception was a little bit slightly muffled, but it was probably pretty clear. But I think that it should be fine. I don't think moisture on a mobile device would hurt the sound as far as I'm concerned. No, it doesn't. All right, so Jupiter in Gemini. I don't think that that's what it affects, and I barely put any moisture on it. So anyway, tangent over, delving in. So Jupiter in Gemini is the kind of person that needs to learn on their own. Cannot be told what to think, what to believe, what to know, what to learn about. Like, I honestly want to say that these people want to learn things for themselves. They want to learn information and subject matters for themselves. They don't want to just conform to what everybody else is telling them to conform to, what everybody else is telling them to learn. Like, they want to learn the information in the way that they want to learn it. They want to learn things the way that they feel is true for them to learn it. That's a beautiful quality. This is the type of person that will form their own opinions through things. But here's the thing. They don't just, form opinions just by, and I think the level of air in this person's chart helps him to move into the North Node in Gemini. So that's very, very, very beneficial. A lot of air, just like I have a lot of air in my chart. This person with Jupiter and Gemini, just in general, just generically, will not just have an assumption or an opinion just told this is what you should believe in by others' belief systems, by other subjective opinions. Like, no, they will not give into and they will not be convinced by others' opinions. They will be very, very curious and very logical and form their own opinions about things through learning about things on their own. Like they will not be told what to think. They will not be told what to think and how to think and what to believe. They will form those beliefs based off of their own understanding independently alone. They will not form these beliefs, through just people being dogmatic to them. And they will have things to say. That's the other thing. Is that, with this kind of personality type, they will have, they will genuinely have, things to say with what they are intending to do and what they're trying to put out into the world. Like, they have thoughts and they are going to speak to these thoughts very, very well. That's what they are going to end up doing is, and the thing is with this placement, it's not interested in belief, theory, hypothesis, assumptions. It's not interested in any of that. Here's what it's interested in. All of what is intellectual. Ideas, thoughts, knowledge, the ability to communicate. Like, that's what they're interested in. That's pursuing these areas makes them feel lucky. Makes them feel like, yeah, what, my life has a purpose to it. My life has, meaning to it, and, it's worth living in that way. So, there's a genuine interest in, ideas. They have a lot of ideas, and they gather these ideas through the knowledge that they learn about, through the knowledge that they that they easily explore about. Now, what happens with this placement is, let's look at how they grow. They grow through learning about many different subject matters, and through reading, through videos, or not types of things like they don't want to be told. They don't. I don't think that they want to be preached at by anyone. They want to learn on their own. They want to learn independently. So, they grow through teaching. They grow through sharing information with others, teaching others the knowledge that they have gathered on subjects, and sharing this knowledge, like distributing this knowledge and just putting it out to the masses, like the jungle gem of that poster put out into the whole wide universe, for the whole town to be able to see it. That's what they want, is information to be accessible. And they also want to teach. Like Gemini is very, very good at teaching information because it can cater to many different types of learning styles and interests. And that's something that the Gemini South Node really has a talent at, is about teaching information. And what they also do very, very easily, with this, is they bridge ideas and people together. They bridge all of these these ideas, these different ideas. Like they take, two different perspectives, two very, very different perspectives in life, and they just form them together. Like they bring others together with all these things. They bring people together, and they, they are the facilitator of all this. So they share ideas with others. That's where their real talent comes into play. Like sharing ideas with others, sharing their knowledge with others in that kind of way. And they also want to collaborate with others. Very, very big on collaborating in that kind of way, where they to achieve common goals, and doing something, with others, basically. Doing things in a synergy type of way, I guess you could say. And they want to exchange ideas with others. They're all about exchanging ideas. Like Gemini is about the sort of the tennis game of ideas, where you share an idea and the other listens, and the other person listens, and while you're sharing your ideas, like it's both in here, and it's a back and forth process of somebody sharing their ideas and the other listening and being receptive to these ideas. So the exchange of ideas, the sort of trade of information could be very, very huge with this, is that kind of thing. And they want to share knowledge to people. They're very, very interested in sharing knowledge. They want to share what they know, and they want to share what they've learned, and having they have a lot of ideas. That's the other thing, is, they have a lot of ideas with what they are doing and what they are thinking very, very easily within and without them. So they're very, very much connected to the realm of ideas, the realm of the mind. Now, they may very well focus on, one of the things about this person that has this is, having, multiple different interests and multiple different projects going on, kind of a disorganized, individual. But they may have a lot of different things going on at once. Like Gemini is a multitasker. There's where they have, one thing going on over here, one thing that they're doing, one interest that they're pursuing, and another thing that they're reading or doing. It's like, Gemini doesn't want to be limited to just one thing, focusing on one thing, one goal, reading one book, watching one video about this, learning about one subject. They want to have multiple different things because they don't want to be bound and they don't want to be trapped. They don't, like, they want freedom. Like, Gemini wants freedom. And when you trap the Gemini saying, oh, you only have to study this subject matter and nothing else, and they feel trapped and they just want to break free of that cage. And, and they want, the spontaneity of flitting from one idea to another. So, they may have multiple interests. Like, people with Jupiter and Gemini may have a lot of interests, at once. Interested in physics, and then interested in astrology, and then interested in Roman history, whatever it is. Like, they're interested in many, many different types of things at once, like, acupuncture and, whatever. Just a random example. It's kind of like a butterfly. You know how you see butterflies and they sort of, like butterflies, the thing with, butterflies is that, you see a butterfly and it's like in a certain flower, it's at a certain flower, and then it's, moving around the certain flower and, flying around it. Then it moves to another flower, and then it flies around that and moves to another flower very, very freely and, spontaneously. Butterflies are free to fly around and they sort of flit from flower to flower. So that's kind of them with their ideas. Like, they move from one idea to another, and, they're very, very balanced when it comes to their ideas, and they're very, very mobile when it comes to, not being bound to one place, over here and then over there and then, another place. Like that's how they are. Their mind is very, very sharp, very, very intelligent, very, very on, very, very dexterous. Like, it has a lot of dexterity to it. And they want to, what they genuinely want, they want to connect people and ideas together. They want to be the bridge builder to many, many different types of ideas and, theories and all these different perspectives that they want to have formed together in one. And so with this placement, there's a restlessness to them, where they're always wanting to move. They're always wanting to stimulate themselves, always wanting to learn something, read a certain book, listen to a certain podcast, talk with this person, go to this place in town, do this certain activity, have a certain idea. Like, there's a restlessness. Like, they're always, like, Gemini is always on the move. It's a mutable air sign. Very, very movable, very, very changeable. And they hate boredom. Like, a bored Gemini is, well, a dead Gemini. Because they can't stand boredom in any Gemini placement. Like, I have a lot of Gemini placement, and I have my Mars there, so what motivates me is when I feel stimulated, I feel motivated. So that's, what is essential for me, for my motivation and drive, is intellectual stimulation. So, boredom is a really, really, thing that they don't want to get caught into, and they don't want to fall into becoming very, bored and, lacking interest in a certain thing. And, they need variety. They need, variety when it comes to what they're learning and what they're doing. Like, if they're eating something, then they want variety in the food. If they're learning something, then they want, variety. They don't want to be sticking with one thing, like, and with Gemini, 9-to-5 job where you're coming in and working at a desk in a cubicle every day. Like, no. They need a job with, good, maybe structure to it, but allows for a lot of variety. So they need variety with the books that they're reading, the things that they're learning, and mental stimulation. Like, they constantly need mental stimulation to continue to be interested in order for them to be interested and passionate in the subjects that they're learning. Then the mental stimulation has to be, there, where they have to be, where their minds have to be, on and activated and, working and, engaging with ideas and learning things, connecting with people and doing all this. So they are they gather a lot of information. They just, like Gemini gathers information. It's just a curious one. The ones that just want to learn, like they gather that up. And if you have this placement, you are a lifelong learner. You are a lifelong learner. You are always humble in the way that you are always curious, wanting to learn new things, and always open-minded and curious and wanting to stimulate yourself and wanting to continue to expand your knowledge over things. Like continually wanting to learn, not in a broad philosophical way like Sagittarius, but in a more detail-oriented way, a smaller way, like Gemini, because Gemini is small, Sagittarius is the broad and big, so and expansive. So you want to continually learn new things in your life. That's how you want to go through life, is continually learning new things and sharing your knowledge. Like you want to share your knowledge with those who are receptive to your ideas. You don't want to share knowledge to those who are just resistant and not having an open mind and closed mind and not willing to learn, not willing to hear your side of the story. And you want people who are interested in what you have to say and who value what you have to say. You get the most expansion in your life when you show adaptability, flexibility. With being able to not be, with being able to, engage in a certain situation and learn what, different things. And so I want to explain so, they're flexible, and they're open to change because, again, Gemini is mutable, and they're very creative. Like Gemini has all these ideas for fixing issues and, doing all these things and coming up with solutions and, whatever. It's just very, very creative. What can I say? Yeah, that's all that I want to explain with that. So you find them when you're adaptable, then you are like that, and you want to bridge different beliefs together and viewpoints between people and yourself. So what this means is, if you have one perspective and you have one belief inside of you, but then there's another part of you that has another belief, you want to integrate them and you want to synthesize them, bringing them together. You want to make them into something coherent. So that's really what you're aiming for with that. And then if somebody has different belief or or viewpoint or whatever, and you want to bridge that together with what they are learning about, and you're very, very curious minded. And you want to share information in a way where you're sharing information that really has a positive impact on others, where they appreciate what you have to say. Where they really appreciate oh, what you're saying does have a lot of value to it, does have a lot of meaning to it, and does carry a lot of weight, and is very, very bright, and it makes sense, and you have some good ideas, and you have some good steps, so to speak. So you have a way of taking information from various places and connecting the information. You take information from one source and another, and then you bridge it together. Now, you want to make conversations more efficient, and you want to initiate conversations. Like, you're great at starting conversations and leading a conversation. You're great at running and managing conversations. And you want to connect with people who are interesting and who stimulate your mind. Yeah, that's what you really want. You really want to keep things stimulating and interesting. Always moving from one idea to the other idea. You're thinking about this idea, this place, and you're thinking about another idea at this other time. So, your minds move very, very rapidly. Your minds move in a very, very fast, quick way. Now, Jupiter in Gemini is considered detriment because it's opposite the sign that Jupiter rules, which is Sagittarius. However, this is a pretty strong placement. This is a pretty positive, placement for Jupiter. I would say this is, very, very strong placement in a way where it holds on to information. Like the thing with Jupiter and Gemini is it holds true to its principles. I mean, you wouldn't think that, but it holds on to the information that it gathers, the information that it learns, the information that it collects. And nobody can change its mind. Nobody can, say, the Romans actually built 2 pints of bridges and brick buildings when you thought that they only built 3 pints. When you're very, very, because you learned it, because you found that to be an actual, type of thing. So they, hold on to information and don't let others, sort of, take that away from you. And you think in your own way. You really, really think in your own unique way when it comes to what you learn about. That's really, how you learn, how you go about your life is, learning in the way that you want to learn. You don't give in to certain beliefs. You will outsmart others if you, need to, by just learning, being curious, being intelligent, being inquisitive, being, wanting to look into something, wanting to, really, really learn into something. There's this thing to, like, too cool for school, if you've heard that saying, where their intelligence just seemed to rise above others. And I don't want to make a false assumption, but I think, this person with actually Sagittarius, South Node, Aquarius, Moon, has a very, very high level of intelligence and wisdom. And I don't want this person to think that he is more intelligent and superior in terms of his knowledge to others. So, there is a intellectual humbleness and humility that, needs to be always here, and the Gemini helps you be always curious to new information. Like, that's the Gemini North, that is being curious to new information. So, they rely on their logical mind. When it comes to, living and experiencing life, they really rely on, their sense of logic, to truly think for themselves, in that kind of way. Like, they're very, very logical. They go from one idea to the next. They're very, very spontaneous. And they may, their ideas are like, wow, I didn't think that you thought of this thing this way. And it's very, 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 very unique ideas, very, very shocking ideas to others. Like, that's what you have. You don't do what others expect you to do. You don't think what others expect you to think. You don't say what others expect you to say. And want you to do. Because you're very, very intelligent. You're too, smart for just giving into what everybody, wants you to do because of this, bright intelligence and this need for intellectual freedom. So, you go against who you are. The thing is, if you're in a certain group or associated with a certain, clan or, team or, belief system, you will very, very likely be in a place of integrity and stand up for your personal principles and stand up for your personal principles in the information that you have learned about the specific thing. It's not going to be just these beliefs out of nothing. You're going to form these beliefs through all this collecting data and all this knowledge that you're gathering. So, going against, who you are in the role you're in with all this knowledge and all these ideas that you have. Don't tell Jupiter and Gemini, just, be quiet and your ideas are, meaningless and, just don't share your ideas. No, they're meant to share their ideas and they're meant to, do all these things. And so, we can be against certain things in our life. But, it's kind of like a child who was raised in an abusive way, I don't want to pick up this habit pattern from the father, training me, being abusive and being controlling and mean and, manipulative and pulsating to me. But then when you pass it on to your child, then you pass it on to your child, because then your child misbehaves, and then you emulate, if that's the right word for it. You mimic and copy what that parent does. So, you don't want to do that, Jupiter and Gemini. In your bones and in yourself, you don't want to do that. So, we can become the very thing that we don't want to become, So, the key with this is focus. Focus your mind. Pick a thing that you're interested in and look into it, gather data, learn about it, actually curious, talk about it, do all these things, but focus your mind. Focus your attention. Very, very difficult to do. Very, very difficult for a Gemini. Not easy for a Gemini. But learning all you can about a given subject. Learning as much as you can about a certain subject. That's all I'm saying here. Is to really, really do that kind of a thing. With doing that, taking the deep dive into it. Taking a deep dive into this kind of thing is very, very critical for Jupiter and Gemini. And then, not just learning for learning's sake. Not just learning I just want to learn about something. That's, kind of, the Gemini North Node, as I was discussing, at kind of the very end of the episode, at the Gemini North Node. Just learn something because you're curious. But, but with this placement, it comes down to applying your knowledge. What you can learn about all these things, and you can, learn about all these intellectual topics and gather all this information and gather all this knowledge and learn about all this knowledge. But, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to translate it into the world? And apply it and doing something with it to achieve goals. Doing something with the knowledge to make things happen in your life. And then looking at how does your communication serve others, as opposed to you just being so intelligent, you just being so, just communicative or, whatever, or bright-minded. But how can your words help others? How can it make a difference in others' lives? How can sharing your ideas and inspire others to share their ideas? How can sharing what you know teach others? How can you teach others? How can you help others grow through your ideas, like teaching others a certain skill or an idea, or enlightening others, I never thought of it this way, giving others another perspective of it. How can it serve others? And also listening. Learning to listen as opposed to just talk. Because at worst, Gemini just talks. It doesn't just stop the noise and stop the mental chatter and relax his mind enough to listen. The evolved Gemini speaks very, very well and very, very deeply about things, what can see, go deeper into things, and use its very, very bright and very, very intelligent, very, very, very interested intellectual skills. And then also, also listen to others. Like in this life, you're learning to listen to what others are saying, really, really hear them. Not just hear them, like you can hear something, but listening is like to be able to understand it, to be able to integrate the information, comprehending it in a way where it's, forming something in your mind. So listening to the information, really, really hearing what the person's saying very, very deeply, understanding the points that they're trying to make, and then responding from that place. And so, looking deeper, and that part of this is being neutral, curious, non-biased, that kind of thing. So, and, you tend to look deeper than everybody else, than others. You tend to, like some Jupiter placements, like Jupiter and Sag, just has a lot of faith and just has all these grandiose, ideas which are not based on anything at all. And they're just, big picture, that's the end of it. But no, you delve right into the details. You get in there and you see all these details of what is going on and all these, facets of the different thing and all these different sides to a certain issue and gathering, seeing, all these little pieces of it. And you want to bring the pieces together to form a whole. You know about so much and you're curious about so much. And you will truly look into something to find the truth of it. You will look into it to find the truth of whatever you are learning about. And you won't be convinced by a certain dogma or beliefs, but instead you will learn about it, research it, investigate it, do whatever to learn about it and come up with your own conclusions and your own ideas and beliefs about it, learning it and exploring it for yourself. That is all that I have to say on Jupiter and Gemini. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast version of this. I have the video on my YouTube channel, which is there's a lot of good information in that video. It's 21 minutes long, jam-packed with a lot of good information. You want to check that out on my channel under the Jupiter to the Signs playlist. And thank you for spending your time with me, and I appreciate your time and attention. Tune in for the next podcast episode tomorrow, which maybe I will do a podcast episode about, what should I do it about? Maybe something different than this, very, very differently. Jupiter in Cancer, probably, which I have a video about that on my channel as well. But I want to do a podcast episode about that, so I want to really talk about that. So tune in for that episode tomorrow. But anyway, thank you for listening in to the Cosmic Sky Podcast. I'm Ricardi. Until next time, bye for now.